You can talk to people about anything. You can talk about politics, you can talk about religion, you can talk about the economy, you can talk about the way they live their life, social issues, controversial things like abortion. But if you talk about people's diet, they will go apoplectic on you. It's a weird thing. You'd think that political discussions or religious discussions would be the thing that people lose their minds about, but I've discovered that it's actually diet, and it's the subject of what I want to talk about, which is what should you eat. And I'm not a scientist. I don't even claim to be. I've just done a lot of research on the diet that I subscribe to, which is like a keto or carnivore diet. I think when I started like my journey of trying to eat better, I started with the paleo diet, but that was actually kind of hard, and I didn't think I could stick to it. Keto I've been doing since Thanksgiving of 2017, and when you have a kid, sometimes you tend to just eat whatever just to survive. So the diet has not been as strict as it was before, but um, there are people that they'll complain to you about mental fog or pain or energy levels or being lethargic, and they'll have these and they'll have all these fixes, and the one thing that they'll never think about, the first thing they think about is always exercise, but the one thing they never think about is their diet. There are so many old wives tales out there, or things that certain generations have told us about. You need to carb up spaghetti, you need to have potatoes, you need to have cereal. Those are all part of a heart healthy diet, and you don't want to have cholesterol and these things. And um, after a while, I think we're like, I don't know if that's always true. Do you need carbs, or do you need that many carbs? I'm not. I have tried a zero carb diet like for many weeks, and it's very hard to do. It can be done, and there's a lot of literature out there that will tell you that your body doesn't need to have sugar. It can create sugar as needed by itself, but I don't want to go too extreme there. But we started to learn these things throughout the last like 10 or 15 years, where it's like maybe cholesterol levels aren't that big of a deal, and maybe we can have more red meat. And does red meat really lead to intestinal or colon cancer? The evidence is not as compelling as the fear mongers out there would have you believe. So um, out and the other argument I always hear is like, well, certain diets work for certain people, and I'm like, I would say that's true, but it's not each. It's more like people's ancestry will affect their diet, not, well, I'll just do standard American diet and I'll be at the healthiest, and you do keto, you'll be at the healthiest, and that's that. It's like, no, not really. It's not that broad where it's like, oh well, the Twinkie diet works for me, or something extreme as that. It actually doesn't. And um, I've discovered over the last couple of years that what diet can you actually do? Because the world that we live in now of convenience, there certain diets are just too hard to do, and they're too hard to do if you have kids, if you've chosen a lifestyle that where you're traveling and are not able to cook, and you're not able to prepare meals or meal plan properly. So what it comes down to, I think, is what is the most effective and what you can actually achieve. So I tried like a year ago the carnivore diet, and I've read a lot about it, and it was very intriguing because I'd already done so much keto. I said, like, classic INTJ is, how can I challenge myself and punish myself even more and see what kind of performance I can get out of myself? So I tried the carnivore diet, and within the carnivore diet, there's all these levels that you can of extreme of extremity, I think you could get into, which is you can just have meat and water. The science on that is not very good in terms of the nutrients, especially if you're not getting the best kind of grass-fed beef. If you're not getting all the different types of beef, not just steak, you have to have liver, you have to have tongue, you have eyeballs, you have everything. And you also shouldn't just have beef, you should have other types of things as well, and seafood. So that's just unrealistic because of the world that we live in today. Then there's a second level, which is like meat and eggs, and you can have water and occasionally like a sugar free water, like a Zevia or something like that, where it still has a like artificial in it, but it's pretty close. So I dabbled in that, and it's it's incredible what it can do, because what you have to understand is, um, there is a really rough phase going from where you're at to where you want to be. And it's the same thing with working out, is you feel good about what you're eating until the soreness and or the that keto flu hits you, and people tend to quit, and they go, I can't do this, I'm too tired, I need all these things, I need to get back to where I feel good, I need the carbs, I need the, whatever it is you need. And they quit, and then they say it didn't work. And then you say, well, how long did you try it for? Oh, I tried it for like a week. Well, you have to try harder than that. I guess my thought here is, I'd really be curious with the comments on here, because I'm saying I believe that there is one or two certain diets that work for 98% of people, and people that have like certain allergies or certain biological DNA ailments that prevent them from doing a certain diet. Yes, that is fine. But I would not say like a vegetarian or vegan diet is sustainable in the long term. And I would also say like these crazy diets like fruitarian, stuff like that, would be advisable, even though I'm not a doctor, so I would not give advice. But I think this is sort of the NITE in myself, like narrowing down what works and what doesn't. And meat needs to be in a diet, eggs need to be in a diet, and also they also need to be farm, like not factory processed. So the people that make the correct argument about, something coming from Oscar Mayer or bologna that's literally just like gray that they dye, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about from a local farmer. I'm talking about, it's grain fed, not grain fed, but it's grass fed, grass finished. You can rely on, like, you'll have the right amount of protein, B vitamins, things like that. So that's the argument that I think is correct, where if you just go and get the lowest quality of meat and eggs, you could have problems. You could have intestinal problems. You could have long-term colon problems. I'm talking about the highest quality, which I can already hear people saying, well, not a lot of people can afford it. And I agree. So what are you supposed to do there? Like, is it only for people, for the upper middle class people to eat well? I don't think that's true. I think you don't have to always get steak. Chicken is cheap. Pork is cheap. Yes, a high quality prime steak is not something that people can put on the table every day. That's very expensive. And at certain times of the economy, it's much more expensive. So I'd be curious to know in the comments, like, have you tried different types of diets, and what were the results? Have you tried going from keto to vegetarian back and forth, standard American diet? Do you drink soda? If you don't drink soda, do you drink like a sugar-free energy drink? Do you drink coffee? Do you think that has any effect on you as well? If you have coffee, are you putting cream? Are you putting sugar in it? Are you putting like those fake flavorings, the powder, the instant coffee stuff? I'm really curious about the diet, because I've done so much research, and not being a scientist, all the mechanisms of how, the carbs really affect your body and insulin levels and the hormones. I kind of get that, but I think what you have to really do as a person is you go, okay, the science makes sense. Let's try it. And then let's try it for a long enough time, like at least 30 days, to see, do I feel better? Do I sleep better? Do I have less brain fog? Do I need less rest? Well, that's one of the things I noticed was I never snoozed. I never had to take naps in the middle of the day. The reason I'm making this video is because I have gotten away from this diet since my son was born almost a year ago, and I can feel the effects. Like this morning I snoozed my alarm, and I know that that's bad, because that tells me that I have had so many carbs the last couple of days that my body doesn't have that vigor to instantly recover and get up and not need as much sleep, because I'm lethargic. My insulin levels are high. I'm feeling bloated. These are just things that happen when you have too many carbs. But think about that all the time is you sleep in, you get a late start to the day, you're kind of like groggy, you can't get going quick enough, and you compound that over so many years. It's no wonder that people are operating their normal is 50% of their capacity, thinking that this is how everyone feels. A friend of mine has like a ton of intestinal problems and thinks that is the way that everyone is. Like he's like, you don't go to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times a day? It's like, no, people shouldn't be having a BM that many times a day all the time. You have something wrong with you. So you just live your life at 50% capacity, not realizing that if you change your diet or made some additions or subtractions to your diet, life would get a lot better. So I appreciate you listening to this rant. It's usually longer than my usual ones. Usually this is going on almost 12 minutes, and usually I'm only about 6 minutes, but I'm pretty passionate about the subject. I'm definitely an armchair dietitian. Like if someone asked me for advice on it, I think I could give it, but I'm not trying to evangelize it. Like if I see someone that is, drinking Skittles and iced tea, I'm not going to say that like, oh my gosh, do you know what you're doing? I'm not going to evangelize it, but I do take note that I kind of feel bad in a way that like you're hurting your potential by the way that you eat. So what do you think about this? Tell me the diet you're on. Tell me where you were before. Tell me what's worked. Tell me some of the horror stories about the diets that you've tried before, because I'm very interested in it. And do you think that certain personality types can stick to a diet better, or do you think that there is certain personality types are much more inclined to indulging, trying a lot of diets than not, kind of going seesawing back and forth on what they try one day, what they try the next day? Is there like a personality aspect about dieting that should be talked about more? Thank you for watching.